political crisis in Haiti intensifies. On Friday, the Senate requested Prime Minister Ariel Henry to hand over power to the High Chamber by Monday, February 7th, date on which President Jovenel Moise's term will... Social organizations and public institutions continue the search and rescue activities in the devastating aftermath of Tuesday's mudslide in La Casca neighborhood in Quito, Ecuador. The 35th summit of the African Union began this Saturday in Addis Ababa, the capital city of Ethiopia, under the theme Developing Resilience and Nutrition in Africa, Enhancing Human Capital, Social and Economic Development. It will be the first face-to-face meeting of the conclave after 2 years of the pandemic. Hi, this is From the South. I'm your news anchor, Diego Martin, from the TeleSUR studios in Havana. We begin with the news. The elections of Costa Rica 2022 start today in Canberra, Australia. The first voting station has already started its activity there to receive the vote of the Costa Rican residents in that country. Costa Rican citizens voting abroad to the time difference. One in Canberra will be the first voting station that will open its doors at 4 p.m. Costa Rica time. The results from each of the overseas stations will not be transmitted until 6 p.m. local time on Sunday morning, as established by the Electoral Code. In recent dates, the Foreign Ministry and the Supreme Court of Elections of Costa Rica revealed that the 80 voting stations in 42 countries are ready to receive the suffrage of the citizens residing abroad, officially numbering 50,833 people registered to vote. The political crisis in Haiti intensified. On Friday, the Senate requested Prime Minister Ariel Henry to hand over power to the High Chamber by Monday, February 7th, date on which President Jovenel Moise's term would have ended had he not been assassinated in July 2021. In a document dated Friday submitted by the President of the Senate, Joseph Lambert, and the President of the Commission for Political Affairs, Patrice Dumont, the message relates to the Constitution of 1987, affirming that the Chamber indisputably recognizes the end of Moise's office, therefore the end of Prime Minister's mission. The Senate requested Henry that he wrap up any pending business he may have until a wide consensus among political actors and civil society is achieved. This pronouncement comes days after a large group of political parties and civil organizations celebrated a vote to choose a new interim president and transitional government, overruling Henry's authority on the matter. This Friday, the Vice Rector General of the National Autonomous University of Nicaragua, Luis Alberto Lobato Blanco, announced that more than 12,000 students have been placed into different careers to enter the educational facility. The Vice Rector of the university, Luis Alfredo Lobato Blanco, explained that the pre-enrollment process was carried out from November 29th to January 15th, and on January 18th and 24th, a psychometric test was applied, which was carried out in different careers and focused on the attitudes of the applicants. The total pre-enrollment was of 27,500 applicants, while the number of careers offered was 76. According to the academic information, the most requested options are dentistry, public accounting, medicine, finance and business administration, and English language. Ordinary enrollment will take place from February 9th to 14th, while on February 15th, the new members of the educational institution will begin their year.
With psychometric tests were 20,845, equivalent to 75.8%. And pre-enrollees in careers without psychometric tests were 6,655, equivalent to 24.2%.
Thousands of teachers in Puerto Rico have taken the streets on Friday in different cities of the country. In the capital, San Juan, a march was carried out starting in the capital and ending in La Fortaleza, the fortress, protesting for a better salary and respectful retirement. The Ministry of Education confirmed an absent rate of 72% regarding the teachers of the public system, of which over 6,000 are gathered in front of the Capitol, the quarters of the Legislative Assembly, from where they will march towards the fortress in Old San Juan. Chanting the slogan, "There will be no peace if there is no better pay," teachers demonstrated, and they were joined by the firefighters and medical emergency workers, whose salaries are also precarious. The guilds and unions request a pay raise above the $478 proposed by the Board of Fiscal Oversight, imposed by Washington to control the finances of the government of Puerto Rico. The retirement of teachers starting the Ides of March will be turned into a plan of limited contribution, which the protesters see as a decision that could leave many educators in poverty.
Good afternoon and greetings to everyone. This March, we are in Fortaleza Street. It's a teacher's mass demanding justice for salaries, for respectful retirement. We are here denouncing the abuse we have endured for 14 years as educators. And here we gather with what we as a collective feel, that it is time to go out to the streets and fight. and we are going to make these actions and reactions go on record so people can express themselves. Because it is now time to organize ourselves and head out, not to only.
We'll take a short break now. Please join us again after this. Welcome back to From the South. Peru's President Pedro Castillo announced that he has decided to recompose his cabinet, which means the departure of the repudiated new Prime Minister Héctor Valer Pinto. Castillo offed as Prime Minister Héctor Valer Pinto on Friday, just 3 days after appointing him amid outrage over revelations that accused the cabinet member of domestic violence in 2016. The opposition and even some ministers were up in arms about Valer Pinto's presence in the government. Once the president appoints a new cabinet, this will be his fourth since the assumption of office 6 months ago. Dozens of protests are happening today across Brazil demanding justice for Moise Kamgabe. He was a 22-year-old refugee from the Congo who was working as a day laborer in a kiosk in Rio de Janeiro. Last week he demanded $40 in back wages from his boss and shortly afterwards was tied up behind the kiosk and beaten to death in a brutal way. Our correspondent Brian Meyer has more details.
Moise Kamgabe was a 22-year-old Congolese immigrant to Brazil who, with his family, fled the imperialist wars over mineral rights in his home country that have killed hundreds of thousands of people. After arriving in Rio de Janeiro, he got a job working as a day laborer in a beach kiosk in the neighborhood of Barra da Tijuca, Rio de Janeiro, which is where President Bolsonaro and his family live. It's an area where organized crime is dominated by the Escritório do Crime paramilitary militia, which is the same militia implicated in the murder of Marielle Franco. Last week, he demanded a couple days of back wages from his employer, worth about $40 in US currency. Shortly afterwards, his hands and feet were tied by a group of 5 men, and he was beaten to death behind the kiosk in a brutal episode that was captured on the beach's security videos. Now today, in over a dozen cities across Brazil, people are coming out to the streets to demand justice for Moise Kamgabe and to demand to know who ordered this assassination.
Tensions remain high in Eastern Europe as the Russian ambassador to the United States, Anatoly Antonov, rejected Washington's claims according to which Moscow should be setting up a justified war scenario with provocations concerning Ukraine. The diplomat firmly affirmed that this theory is a lie and that it's part of the info warfare against his country. Antonov explained Washington's been stirring up the world for months with the claims that Ukraine is about to be attacked by Russia. The representative referred to the latest version of the story by the State Department, according to which certain leaks assured a false flag operation against Kiev. Due to the severity of this remark, the Russian ambassador asked Washington to stop staging props for gullible media audiences, suggesting these stories could bear the intention of creating an alibi for potential Ukrainian military operations against 2 separatist regions in the country's east. China's President Xi Jinping called for the safeguarding of the Olympic movement's values while addressing dignitaries attending the opening events of Beijing 2022. During his speech at the opening of the Beijing 2022 Winter Olympic Games, the Asian leader called for keeping alive the precepts of living together with mutual respect, equal treatment, embracing dialogue, and consulting in the face of differences, as well as eliminating conflicts. Xi Jinping also stressed the need to draw on the spirit of the Olympic movement to address challenges such as the continuing spread of COVID-19 pandemic, climate change, and terrorism. He also called for the achievement of all-around human development and the promotion of mutual learning among different civilizations in order to build a more just, inclusive, and peaceful world. Now, the presidents of China, Xi Jinping, and Russia, Vladimir Putin, held their first face-to-face meeting in 2 years, a summit in which they agreed to increase their strategic partnership to higher levels and strengthen their coordination on issues of regional and international interest. Our correspondent Iramzi Perasa from Beijing has the details.
Xi Jinping met with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin just hours before the opening of the Beijing Winter Olympic Games, showing that ties between the two neighboring countries are warmer than ever. During this presidential summit, the first face-to-face meeting in 2 years, Xi and Putin highlighted the unprecedented level of their bilateral ties and the importance of their partnership in maintaining international stability.
Our countries are committed to strengthen their strategic coordination in the light of profound and complex change in the international situation. We are a reliable partner to bring the world together in the midst of crisis and to practice true multilateralism in a democratic spirit.
Both leaders also called for a common approach to global challenges by strengthening bilateral trade ties in strategic sectors.
Our bilateral relations are progressively developing in a spirit of friendship and strategic partnership. The ties have been strengthened to an unprecedented level and are an example of dignified relations in which each helps and supports the other in its development.
After the meeting, both leaders presented a statement on their joint vision on international security and criticized the U.S. influence and its attempts to expand Western military alliances in Europe and Asia, at the time of serious tensions due to the situation in Ukraine. In the declaration, they called for building a new type of relation between the world's powers based on respect. They committed themselves to stand up to meddling. They rejected unilateral sanctions and demanded the end to NATO expansion and insisted for the United States to speed up the destruction of its chemical weapons. Although ties between China and Russia have not been free of confrontation throughout recent history, the current context shows how much both parties tend to gain from relations that both Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin describe as strategic. The President of
The consequences of Tuesday's mudslide at the neighborhood of La Gasca in Quito are still of concern as the numbers of victims increase. Social organizations and public institutions continue the search and rescue activities in the devastating aftermath. The situation is still unsettling. Official figures report 28 dead, 52 injured, and now one person is still missing according to authorities. Also, some 5 people are estimated to have been left without housing or in conditions of precarious living due to the impact of the disaster. Members of the National Police organized the aid for the population and the rescue teams, as well as those from the central government, who have set mobile hospitals, shelters with food, towels, and medicines for the affected population. We're going to take a final short break now. Please join us again after this. Welcome back. The 35th Summit of the African Union began this Saturday in Addis Ababa, the capital city of Ethiopia, under the theme Developing Resilience and Nutrition in Africa, Enhancing Human Capital, Social and Economic Development. It will be the first face-to-face meeting of the conclave after 2 years of the pandemic. The agenda of the meeting includes issues related to peace and the economic growth in the continent, in addition to food security. One of the most important objectives is to agree on a sustainable response to the impact of the disease in the region based on increased access to vaccines for COVID-19, the socioeconomic consequences of the pandemic, the war in northern Ethiopia, tensions between Morocco and Algeria, instabilities in Chad, Burkina Faso, Guinea, Mali, and Sudan, forced displacements, and the effects of climate change will also be on the agenda. One of the high points of the meeting is expected to be the questioning of the African Union's link with Israel. Palestinian Prime Minister Mohammed Shtayyeh urged the African Union to withdraw Israel's observer status as heads of state from the 55-member body met for a 2-day summit. The relationship with Israel is a rare point of contention for a collective that values consensus. This issue is expected to be one of the main topics in the Addis Ababa summit this weekend.
For its violation and for the apartheid regime it does impose on the Palestinian people.
Angolan government authorities confirmed that studies are actually underway for the creation of special tax zones in the country to promote the development of commercial and industrial activities. According to government data, these studies have been carried out for 11 months by a multinational company from the United Arab Emirates, Dubai Ports World. In this context, the president of Angola, João Lourenço, held a meeting with an executive of the company who provided details of this initiative, whose goal is to increase the competitivity of the cargo and logistics sector according to the needs of national market and foreign trade. The financial amount of the investments will depend on the location and type of infrastructure that the country finally decides to build. The Security Council of the United Nations condemned the killings of 60 civilians in an attack against a displaced community in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The events transpired in a displaced refugees camp in the country's northeast. Preliminary reports affirmed the attack was carried out by the Cooperative Militia for the Development of Congo. Members of the Security Council condemned the aggression and demanded the government to conduct an investigation that will guarantee the full extent of the law to be applied on those accountable. The chief of the UN mission in DRC, Bintou Keita, also spoke out heavily against the incident. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan was tested positive for COVID-19. He tweeted Saturday. Erdogan sent the message after appearing via video link at a tunnel opening ceremony from Istanbul, having cancelled his appearance in person. In the video link, Erdogan said that he could not attend in person due to experiencing a cold and the hoarseness of his voice. The announcement of the president's test results came approximately 30 minutes after the event concluded. The president showed no signs of illness in his televised appearance. Turkey has seen record levels of COVID-19 cases in recent days, with more than 100,000 cases reported by the health ministry on Friday. The country is also seeing a high number of fatalities due to COVID-19, with 248 deaths reported on Friday, a level not seen since October. On Friday, the U.S. health authorities recorded 2,400 deaths due to coronavirus, bringing the total number of deaths caused by the disease to more than 900,000. This is reflected in the latest update from the country's Centers for Disease Prevention and Control, CDC, which also reported more than 330,000 new cases in a single day, bringing the total number of infections to more than 76 million since the start of the pandemic. Despite these records, the country is bending the infection curve, which had its highest peak on January 16th, when the country was immersed in a great wave of infections caused by the new Omicron variant dominant in the nation, as well as by the end of the New Year celebrations. Regarding the vaccination process, the CDC reported that about 64% of the U.S. population is fully immunized, while less than 75% of the citizens have already received at least one dose. After the release of the data, the president of the country, Joe Biden, remarked the importance of vaccines to save lives and fight the virus. On Friday, after collecting results of samples analyzed in laboratories of the Pan American Health Organization, the new Omicron variant of COVID-19 was detected in the Haitian country. The nation, despite belonging to Insular America until mid-July last year, had not received a single dose of vaccines. However, by January 30th, there was a figure of 93,809 Haitians who had already received a vaccine jab, according to data from the Ministry of Public Health. Haiti recorded a total of 26,807 confirmed cases and 780 deaths due to COVID-19. Health authorities also pointed out Omicron has a prevalence of 70% as January 5th, compared to 30% for Delta variant. We've come to the end of this news brief, but remember you can find these and many other stories on our website at TeleSUR English. You can also follow us on social media for all the latest news. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Diego Martin. Thanks for watching.